Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, here we are. Chris Freeman and Jennifer Barner and myself are going to talk about a subject we all love, and that is capital raising. And I forgot to start the record button, so take it away, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Ed. All right. So why capital raise right now? Well, really the question to ask is, when is the best time to raise capital? And that is all the time, every day, well before you ever need a deal. So when thinking about capital raising, many of you, as you know, you could take any part of the multifamily business and break down any of the components, and there's a long list of things you need to do, a long list of things you might want to focus on. And so I try to just take capital raising and maybe break it down into a more simpler way to look at it. And there's really the beginning, the middle, and the end. And especially if you're just more or less getting started in the business. So the beginning is really getting started. The middle is, maintaining that momentum. What do you need to be doing to continue to create more investors before you have a deal? And then the end is really, now you have an actual deal, and how do you run that a little bit different? So I'm just going to touch on each one of those for a few minutes, and we'll interject with a few comments from the fireside panel here. So getting started. I think I'm assuming all of you know that you just need to start with building a list, but I can't tell you how important that is. And I also can't overemphasize the importance of not overthinking the list. I would, if you haven't done it already, I would set a goal to try to build a list of 200 people, and look at your friends, your family, past work contacts. And the reason why I say this, because I definitely overthought it when I first did it, and then I said, all right, the heck with it, I'm putting everybody on the list. And the reason why you want to be more generous with who you put on the list is, number one, you never know, they may be interested. And even if they're maybe an unqualified contact, that person could be one of your best promoters to some other qualified contacts. So just build a list. And then the other thing, the lesson I learned when I was trying to get started, I was getting distracted by too much detail. One of the things I did was I stepped back and I said, just get the names on a list, get the names on a spreadsheet. Don't worry about phone numbers, emails, just brainstorm, get as many names down as I can. Then I went back and started inserting emails into my spreadsheet to start to then set something up that I could use to contact them. Now, you may not think that you can do 200, and if you can't, then do 100. But I think it's important to set aside time each day, each week, just to keep adding names to it. And then from there, you probably all know this already, but get a brand, get a logo. That'll be really important with the next step of communicating to your list. Having that name, company name, that brand. If you don't have it, it does give you a little bit of professionalism, some more legitimacy with what you're trying to message. And then from there, you have to shout it out loud. You have to let everyone what you're doing. And this was actually really hard for me because I wasn't on social media. I've always kind of been a heads down, go do your work type of person. And I never promoted what I did. I always felt like my results speak for myself. And so that was something I had to do to get out of my comfort zone, which was start letting all my friends, letting all my family know that, hey, here's what I'm doing. And so the way I did that was I did an introduction letter via email. And this is just a sample of it. And I've tweaked it a little bit over time. And just in case some of you are on audio, I'll paraphrase it. I won't read the whole thing, but it was essentially, hey, how you doing? I want to let you know that I've expanded my real estate investment efforts with my company name. And then I think this is important. This included partnering up with another seasoned investor that has 30 plus years of experience and a general partner in over 1,000 units. And then I had some experience with smaller assets in my backyard, so I touched on that. If you don't, I'll give you a couple suggestions on that as well. And then our main focus continues to be on multifamily apartments. You can find out more about our firm at www, whatever your company name is. And then this is really important. You have to have a call to action to give people an opportunity to let you know that, hey, they would be interested in learning more. And I put in here, are you interested in being on our investor list in the event that we have a deal that fits our criteria? And below is just an example of, so I added this. I didn't have a deal when I first sent this out, but below is an example of our last project in Atlanta. And then, hey, we won't be constantly blowing up your email. We'll do 3 to 4 offerings in a year. Would be great to catch up. So you'll send that out. And I'm sharing this with you because I didn't do this the ideal way. I started doing this when I knew that I was going to be part of a deal. And so now I'm sort of scrambling to try to get this out before I had to go announce that we had a deal. Ideally, I would have been doing this well in advance. And if you don't have any assets today, what I'd recommend is grab someone else. Grab your coach if you have a real estate coach. Grab one of us, and you can just put in there that, hey, I'm working with one of my partners who has X, Y, and Z, and focus on that versus focusing on what you have or what you don't have. And then, you'd be surprised when I sent out, my letter. I had some people that responded and said, hey, no, not interested. Thanks. And then, we ended up chit-chatting, having conversations. But then some people came back and said, hey, yeah, I'd love to hear more about it. And then the larger portion of my list just didn't respond either way, but they definitely were looking at it. And so we have a copy of this letter in the resource folder that Ed has set up for the mashup. So after we're all done, he'll make sure he shares that so you can get a copy of that and edit it to however you want to use it. Hey, Jennifer, let me ask you. So when you were getting started, how did you first communicate with your contacts?
Well, someone very, very wise and close to me said that you needed to start either a podcast or start a real estate investment group amongst those that were already investing. So that's what I did. And then from there, I created my own business page around my company name. And I started sharing there that, hey, we've started, and I invited everybody in my Facebook group, right? Everybody found out that, hey, if you want to join, you want to hear more, come join me over here on my business personal page. And that's how you can learn about what I'm doing. So for me, that was a way that I got the word out. So I didn't do this letter, but I think this letter is brilliant. And I wished I would have known you back then.
Well, in all fairness, it's not me who created it. I grabbed this from somebody else. So,
Hey, I got a question for both of you guys. What do you tell somebody, close friend of mine, has got 4,500 Facebook friends, but he's afraid to post anything about real estate on there because he doesn't want everybody to know.
It's legitimate. That was mine too. I was scared to death to let people know. So I just kind of dripped occasional things that I was doing in real estate on my personal page. And then when I got some courage up, that's when I, said, hey, I'm starting this page over here. Or actually what I did is I posted on a property that I was flipping. Hey, I'm so excited. We just wrapped this project up. If you want to follow what I'm doing on other ventures in real estate, come over here to this page. So that's how I, got people to join me on a business page. But I was like your friend. I didn't want people to know. I was a little afraid of putting myself out there. But
I tried to do that back when I was a musician playing in like 13 bands. What I would do is on my Facebook back then, I had probably 1,800 friends on there, and all musicians, right? So I would start a band page and then I would invite people over to that. But, just a very small percentage of the people would actually come over and like that page. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, good point. You're not going to get everybody, but not everybody wants to buy a car right now either. But one day they will. And I think that's what Chris was alluding to, is you're just trying to plant a seed with people to let them know what you're doing, because they may not have money today, but in the future, when they think about, hey, I need to put these dollars to work, they're going to think of Chris. They're going to think of you, they're going to think of you because you planted the seed.
Yeah, such a great point. And people, people get excited about your journey. If you're excited and you're promoting it and you're starting to talk about some of the things that you're doing, if they hear somebody that mentions something about being interested in real estate, they're like, hey, let me introduce you to my friend Jennifer. And that is one thing that I track closely in my CRM is number of referrals. How many people have people referred me to? And then, how did they know about me? Right. Most of it comes from my email. So Ed, you're talking about the social media piece and Facebook. This is where one thing I really want to emphasize is how important your number one goal with capital raising is get their email. You have to control the communication to your contacts. And, you can do stuff in Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and, TikTok or whatever. But your end goal is how do you get their email? Because at some point, and I'll give you a quick example of this is, what if something happens to your social media site? So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I'll just tell a quick story. I was doing some marketing within LinkedIn with my first level connections and highlighting a deal that we had. So these are all people that I knew. Well, I did something that possibly broke some rules within LinkedIn. I'm not real clear what it was, but LinkedIn locked my account. And I was locked out for 4 days and I had to go take a picture of my driver's license, send it to them. And eventually I got back in and everything worked out well. But that's just an example of, if you don't have their email and you're just relying on social email and you lose that access, your business will crumble. So something to think about.
Yeah.
And to the other point, I think it's a great question because I think sometimes you're a little bit nervous about exposing, what you're doing to everybody. And I'm still working. I'm still in my W-2 job. And I was really hesitant to expose what I was doing in real estate to my professional network in LinkedIn, which is why I didn't go blast it out there in LinkedIn. I went and grabbed people's email addresses from my first level connections in LinkedIn. And then I picked and chose. There were some people I did not include, like my boss, in my emails. So just another example of if you have that concern, you can control it by emailing versus blasting it all over social media.
Hey, Chris, one thing, we all know who Grant Cardone is, or at least I think probably most everyone does. If you don't, go out there, look for Grant Cardone. But he has a favorite line that he loves to share. And he says, if people aren't talking about you, you're not talking enough.
And it's all about the N, the O, and the I.
I love that. Yeah.
All right. So something else that I'm real passionate about is as you're getting started, right? Hopefully you have a CRM and you're putting everybody in that CRM. And as you're building your list, I mean, there is no time like the present to get organized around how you organize those contacts. Because as your list starts to grow, there's just no way you can remember who was in what bucket or who do you maybe not want to send that email to, right? Or maybe you don't want to send a newsletter to them. And so I rely heavily on tagging within my CRM. And for me, it's just a quick way as I'm building out a list, or maybe I want to do an email distribution list to a subset of people. It's just a really convenient way to organize your contacts. And here's just an example of Bill, who he has the tag. He received the intro to friends and family email. He then registered for a webinar that we had on a deal. I then had a prospect call, an investor call with him, and then he actually became an investor. So, if I need to do updates to just those investors, I can just sort it by the tags. And so you may have other tags, right? Maybe certain coworkers or certain people within your personal network that, I also have tags for warriors, or I have tags for people that I meet up at a meetup or a mashup, just so I can slice and dice in any way that seems interesting to me. So Ed, I know you've got a ton of contacts in your database. What are some of the ways you organize your contacts to maximize your capital raising efforts?
Yeah, well, first off, I use a lead status, and I break that up into, let's say, a deal ready, cold lead. I haven't really been using that so much. A cold lead is going to be for when I start doing the podcast circuit and you know, I start having people join my list that I don't know. That would be a cold lead. Right now, I only have like 2 of them. I have a do not market. That might be, you know, maybe my broker or my attorney or, you know, my mother or whatever, you know. Then I have current investor. Anybody who's invested with me in the past, they're kind of like, you know, the VIP there, you know, of the people. And then I have, you know, past investor or inactive investor. And that's, I only have a few of those because that's when you sell your property and the people didn't reinvest with you. So they're, you know, they're an inactive investor. In addition to that, those are my lead statuses, but then I have tags too. I use HubSpot and Hub Tags, thanks to Jennifer on the Hub Tags. And thanks to Josh for moving me over, Josh Edwards, my assistant and analyst, for moving me over to kicking and screaming, moving me over to HubSpot. That's it, HubSpot. So in there, I have Hub Tags, and I use every time I do a lot of traveling. So I go to a lot of meetups and events. I speak at a lot of events. So I'll have a lot of people here familiar with Rod Cleve. So I'll have Rod Tampa, Rod Denver, Rod Orlando, Rod Atlanta, you know, whatever. And then I'll have, you know, Jake and Gino 2018, Jake and Gino 2019, Jake and Gino 2020. Then I'll have, you know, all the different events that I go to. So when I bring up a person in my contact list, I have all these hub tags there, and it's like instantly kind of like paints a picture of them. If for some reason I may have forgotten them a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you will forget, right? I mean, there's just no way you can remember all that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right. Well, all right. So now let's move over to the middle section, right? So now that you have your list built and you've communicated to your network of people, what are you going to do to maintain visibility? What are you going to do to maintain relevance? You know, just so they remember you, right? I mean, one email, by the way, is not going to do it. They may not all see it, may go into a spam folder, and people have short-term memory. So, you know, you need to be thinking about how do you continue to, obviously, one, grow your list, but two, maintain visibility with your contact there. And so I do a newsletter, and everybody has their own different style. But, you know, be thinking about, right, how do you want to communicate? So some people do a weekly newsletter, maybe bi-weekly, monthly. I would recommend definitely do something, but start with something that you know you can consistently deliver on. So maybe initially a month is easier to tackle than doing something bi-weekly or even weekly. I personally do weekly, but then I keep it shorter. And my challenge was when I was looking at monthly, there was just so much that would happen over a month, or maybe a deal was going to come up, or maybe I wanted to get my investor list warmed up about a certain market. I didn't want to wait a whole month, and I didn't want to have all these extra emails going out just because I wanted to get that out. So I do a very short weekly newsletter that's formatted in the same way. So something up top, maybe about a deal, something in the middle that's educational, and then something at the bottom that highlights a podcast either that I was on, or maybe a podcast that I'm running and hosting. So a little bit of promotion there. But always, the most important thing you can have there is a call to action in your newsletter. Always giving them an opportunity to follow up, do a download, go to your investor portal, set up a call, whatever it might be. The other thing that I think is really important is, you know, if you're going to be sending them this letter, right? How do you offer value? You know, and it could be, you know, I think like, you know, maybe you don't have a lot of your own content that you're comfortable writing today. Well, many of you have heard of Neil Bawa. I've been on his newsletter for a while. Sometimes he's sending out a newsletter that's just nothing but a bunch of other links from other people, you know, other news links, and he didn't create anything. do that. Maybe take like this last week, and I've put a sample in the resource folder. I had 2 links, and I just provided a quick recap above each link. One was about inflation, one was about, I think, rates. I can't remember the details of it, but I just provided a 1 to 2 sentence insight on the article. And if they want more, they can click on it. And by the way, I do the same thing in social media. If I'm going to post that link in social media, don't just post a link, post the link and then provide your opinion, or provide 1 sentence of color or 2 sentences of color on that article to show a little bit of thought leadership around the topic. If you maybe you haven't done a deal, but maybe you have somebody you're partnering up with and they have done a deal, and maybe that deal's gone full cycle. Maybe in one of your newsletters, you just highlight an example of a deal. Maybe it's an example of a deal in a market that you're interested in, right? It gives people a chance to get familiar with what it is that you're doing. I guess, Ed, Jennifer, from when you're out working your list, what are some of the things you like to do to add value or kind of maintain that brand awareness?
Well, like you said, I think when I come across good articles that I know are important, talking about what people are most concerned about today, which is, inflation or market correction, interest rates. If I come across things like that, I'm like you, Chris, I try to get that in a newsletter. I try not to bombard my audience, but I also want to help them, change their mindset and not be afraid of the future, because there's so many people afraid right now. And I think it's important to, just tackle it head on. But kind of going back to what you said early on, when I got started, I probably was so conservative. I was noticing when I started, I was dropping little things out every 6 weeks. And then I've got to about every 3 weeks. And then I got a little more comfortable and more courage. And then it was about every other week. And so now I'm just, it's growing comfortable, putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick example. So I was launching that email when it's going out to 2, 3, 4, 500 people. Man, I would and I do mine every Sunday. And sometimes I would just completely be terrified, thinking, oh God, I hope, I just always worried about like some blowback. And I don't know what that blowback would be, but I was worried about it. Eventually I get over it. And the number of times I've been out socially, this just happened the last weekend. Ran into somebody at my daughter's school. High school had some parent social. And so ran into one of my old neighbors, hadn't talked to him in a long time. He's like, hey, how's Jacksonville going? He's been getting my newsletter. I've never talked to him about anything real estate, but he's getting it. He likes it. He said, keep it coming. My wife and I have been talking about wanting to diversify in real estate for a long time. And, it's such a great way because he's coming to me. I'm not going out and having to push him. I'm letting him come to me on his terms when he's ready. And, he likes a little bit of tidbits of information that I'm providing through the newsletter. So you just never know who's going to find value. You may never know, but they're reading it. And then I think I touched on this. You always have a call to action. Setting up a call is great, but most people, that's a big step for them. They're not going to want to schedule a call, because they're not going to know what to ask you, and they may not be educated. So that's going to be a barrier for them to want to set up that call. Maybe they can reply an email, which is a little bit easier for them to do if there's some interest, or, if you've got a lead magnet or you have something on your website, something they can download, that's another great option. This one right here, I have not done this. Jennifer and I were just talking about this, and I didn't really need to do it because I was already kind of off and running with some other stuff. But if I was new and I didn't have a deal yet, I would definitely set up an educational webinar before you have a deal. Why multifamily? Why invest in real estate? What is a syndication? And, if maybe if you're not comfortable doing it all by yourself, grab one other person with a little bit more experience and then use that, send that out to your list. And then I would make that my signature. It's like, hey, if you're interested in kind of why invest in real estate, here's a webinar I did a while back. And that's something out there that's evergreen that can always be educating.
That is a great suggestion. I love that.
All right. And I guess, then, just kind of wrapping up on the middle part, right? So eventually you're going to move on from your friends and family. And so you do want to start thinking about how do you create a little bit more of a structured pipeline of investors that that you don't know that, but you'll get to know over time. And I would, for me, this is really important that take some time to think about who do you want to reach, how will you reach them, and then what action do you want them to take. So as you progress with building your list, think about, because they talk about that investor avatar, right? Who's that ideal or target investor? And I don't know who created the avatar word, but think about, right? So I know this guy who's a pilot, and so he built up a whole brand around raising capital and helping pilots invest in real estate. And there's another attorney that focuses on attorneys. And personally, I'm still in high tech sales, so my brand is High Tech Freedom, and I focus on other high tech salespeople. It's just a way for me to connect, and actually helps me focus. It helps me get kind of a more clear message when I am speaking to that target investor. So the other thing that you'd want to think about is once you've kind of figured out that maybe that target investor, that avatar, then how do you reach them, right? And you have to be very specific. Maybe carve out some time each day, each week to target, that type of person in LinkedIn. So what I'm doing personally and working with the VA is I've built a list of salespeople through LinkedIn Navigator. And then, if I'll look at people that have posted, or I'll get alerted that they post, and then I'll have my VA or myself will go in and comment on what they posted. So I'm not asking them to invest, but I'm engaging them first. And then after maybe I've done that a couple times, I might invite them to come over to my private High Tech Freedom sales group that I have in LinkedIn. And then, at some point down the road, maybe I'll promote or get them to come listen to my podcast. You got to think about your sort of niche and think about, where those people hang out. But that having that focus will help you focus. At least for me, it did. Any other comments, Jennifer, Ed, on kind of that next phase, kind of moving beyond that initial friends and family list?
Ed, you?
No, I think, but I will say this, in that I am probably the best example on this webinar here of a bad example of what to do or not to do. And that I have over 1,200 people on my CRM, but I've never done a newsletter. And but I've already committed to doing one. Well, I've committed my assistant Josh to helping me do one. And so we're gonna start one in March. But think about it. You go out to all these, I spend thousands of thousands. I think I spent over $30,000-$40,000 a year just going to various events and masterminds and networking. And yeah, I'm a great networker, but I'm a terrible follower upper, and this is what Chris is talking about right now. So he's definitely lighting the fire under my butt here. So I'm taking notes, and so thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So, all right, let's just kind of wrap it up then. So now, all right. So now you have a deal, right? And this is where, it's game time, right? So once you have a deal, you've been pulled in, maybe sponsors brought you in to help raise capital, help with a few other things in the deal. And, this is a time where you need to deliver. And, so hopefully, as I mentioned before, this isn't the first time you're having the conversation with your people about investing, because once you're in a deal, you really have about 45 to 60 days to run through the process. It's pretty hectic, right? Get the investors, get them committed, get their funds wired. So, the thing that I think is really important in this process, and hopefully you have some runway before you have your deal, but start educating your list on that specific market. Maybe I'm on the West Coast, so if I have investors on the West Coast, they kind of know where Atlanta is and they kind of know where Florida is, but they're not close to that market, and so it's really important for me to start to warm them up to a specific submarket where we think we might have a property. And then there's this idea of creating urgency. So you have to, so I've been in sales for 26 years, so maybe even longer than that. And during a deal, it's really important to think about what motivates people to take action, right? So you might think the opportunity to invest would be enough, but surprisingly, very few people act purely on opportunity. I mean, if they did, they'd all be entrepreneurs, right? The fear of missing out is much higher, has a much higher driver for people to take action. When they feel like they're going to miss out on something, that sometimes gets them to take that next step. And maybe you've got an investor summary, you do a webinar, you've talked to them. Potential investors will get about 80% committed going through the process, but maybe then they're vacillating on moving forward. Maybe they're too busy, they're distracted, there's some questions that are outstanding. If you're raising capital and you believe in the deal, it's your job to get them over that last 20% hump. And this is where, it's really important to build urgency, excitement, and a limited time availability as it relates to the process of the deal. And this isn't just capital raising, by the way. I mean, this is anything that you're trying to sell, negotiate, put together. And some of you might be saying to yourself, you're not totally comfortable with this, and that's okay. You could also address that by having more people in your funnel and just kind of, let it go where it goes. But after a full career of high-tech sales, I'm just really comfortable knowing that this is how people think. You take an executive of a company, they will spend more money with their CapEx budget to avoid a pain or avoid exposure or an issue than they will chasing an opportunity that could grow revenue. I mean, it's been proven time and time again with many high-end consulting studies. So anyways, so if you believe in a deal, if you believe multifamily is a good investment, just really let that excitement and that urgency carry through the process. Now, if you're going to raise capital, you want to leverage all the tools in your kit, and you don't want to hold anything back. If you have an arsenal of weapons and you're going into battle, you need to be using every single one of those weapons. And I mean, and if you do believe in the deal and you believe in what you're doing, why would you not want to do that? And give your contacts the opportunity to at least make a decision, yes or no. And so, one thing that we do is, we have a series of emails, not just one, but for each deal, I like to create roughly a series of about 9 emails. And some of those emails are just for the webinar attendees, but each email kind of creates some progression of urgency through the deal, all the way up to the point of being, hey, the deal is oversubscribed. And by the way, that email, that is the most important email you can send, because when you send a deal that says, hey, we're oversubscribed, jump onto our waiting list just in case, anybody doesn't fund, it creates tremendous credibility for you and your team. And it's also, some people are just waiting to see how you do. And now that they've seen that, they're maybe a much higher probability investor for the next deal. Just as a quick example, on my very first raise, I sent out an oversubscribed email and I said, hey, we're essentially oversubscribed. We have X amount of dollars left that'll go pretty quickly. And one of my contacts, who I had not talked with in a long time, she hit me up with a reply that said, I'll take it. And, grab that. And in hindsight, I wish we had been less oversubscribed and would have got a bigger investment from her. But I was going to mention one.
Chris,
Oh, go ahead.
This is great. I was simply going to say a tool I use on the text blast is called Hit 'em Up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a free subscription for a short period of time. But if you start doing more and more capital raising, I think costs, what is it, $17.99 a month or a year? I don't know. I'm sorry. But it's really, really valuable. You can put in your link and just say, hey, in case you missed my email, it may have went to spam. I wanted to make sure you're aware of this upcoming webinar that we're doing on an opportunity and such and such. And now that text message might appear a little long, but again, you're just trying to get top of mind and stay in front of them. You don't want them to miss out on anything you're doing, even if they don't have money right now. but it's just making sure it gets to them in some way.
Yeah, it is so important because people will communicate in different ways. And so we all three of us have sent out text blasts using the Hit 'em Up app or maybe other apps. And the number of times people had said, oh, I didn't see your email.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't see the webinar invite. And if you're just relying on the email and nothing else, you're not using all the weapons in your arsenal. So you have to use all that. So I mentioned LinkedIn. I went through on a more recent deal and I did a bunch of email or a bunch of direct messages within LinkedIn to my first level contacts. And it was very simple. It's like, hey, just curious, did you see the latest deal that we're doing in XYZ city? And or I said the latest apartment deal that we're doing in XYZ city. And I had probably 7 people come back. Some people just said no, but I had 7 people that came back that said no, but shoot it over to me. I was like, okay, great. And then out of those 7 people, I had one that had invested, and I had a second one that was a referral from one of them that we're going to get on a call and meet. So just another way of touching people in a different way. You know, maybe I didn't have everybody's mobile phone. All right.
And
So just
one other thing I wanted to mention about the Hit 'em Up app is it's really unique in that you can create one text message and then you click everybody in your phone who you want to send it to. So it allows you to be very strategic in who you're sending it through or to, or you can just say, select all, send it out, and hope for the best. Yeah, the only thing I would say is on that Hit 'em Up, anytime you're sending a text message, you want to make it seem like it's coming directly from you to them and it's not a bulk text message. You want to create a connection between you and them. So it's always nice to say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Hey, I just wanted to make sure, so you want to create some kind of little intimacy right there. So they feel like, wow, you thought of me. I'm so honored. So just a little tip.
Yeah, and you can put in the modifier, right? You can say hi, modifier, first name, so it'll be personalized without you having to do it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
One word of caution, a big word of caution when texting people, don't make the mistake that I did. And that is, I forgot to put my name on the text and not everybody knew it was from me. And somebody flagged it as spam. And it took two weeks to get my texting working correctly again. And they told me that it was a one-time only fix, meaning if it ever happens again, they're not going to correct it.
Wow.
So word of caution.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
And I think the last thing I'll mention on this one is I think a lot of you are familiar with Calendly. I like to make a specific Calendly booking if we're in the middle of a deal. I think it just looks a little bit more professional. But what's great about it is when someone, I have a call that shows up in my calendar and it's with that one, I know we're specifically talking about the deal versus my standard book a 20-minute call with Chris. So real simple, but it helps. Just a couple other items. So you're going to, as you start to ramp up, or maybe you're already ramped up, you're going to start to have a lot of conversations with people. And, in this business, you have to organize and you have to take notes and you have to keep some records to show that you have that substantive relationship with the person. And this is hard. There's so many tools out there, but it's, the tools are only as good as you use. So I created, and once again, I borrowed this from somebody else, a questionnaire that I use when I talk to somebody. The fields are fixed, and then I can just enter the data. And once I do that, I'll save it on my computer, and then I'll save it to their contact in the CRM. And then sometimes if I have another conversation with them, I'll pull it back up and maybe add to it, or maybe even create a second one just to demonstrate that there's been multiple conversations happening. Something Jennifer and I were talking about the other day was it's not even a bad idea to recap the conversation and send it back to them in email. Just another way to document that you had the conversation.
Chris, something else I did is I created a second email like yours and said, hey, I know our time was short together. Is there anything you'd like me to know about yourself that I didn't ask that, we didn't get a chance to talk about? And hey, by the way, what do you do in your spare time? Just trying to create some kind of rapport with them. So I feel like we got a connection outside of real estate, because people love to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so, that's something I've started including in my, follow-up emails.
Yeah, love it. Well, that's all I had. Just we wanted to open it up for some questions. And look, I haven't solved all the problems around capital raising, but that's one area I'm still working. So for me, it's just one area where I'm putting all my energy into it to continue to be better, more professional, and create more value to the people and the team members that we're on in terms of deals. Yeah, thank you for your time, and open it up for more questions.
Yeah, we have some questions on here.
Yeah, Chris, thanks a lot for doing this. I think this is probably our best attendance so far. So it looks like we found a good topic for everyone here. We do have some questions for sure. And let me tell everybody real quick how you can save the chat. Most of you probably know, but not everybody. You go to those three dots there in the bottom right corner in the chat. You click on it and then save it to chat. And you can find it by going to your documents in your computer, going to the Zoom folder, and it'll be in there. That's it. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Christian asked, do you recommend creating a group on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But with that said, so my group's relatively new, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it. But what I'm trying to do now is leverage it for other things that I'm doing around the business. So maybe as an example, I wrote an article. This is a non-real estate one, but it kind of sales related. I wrote an article, put that in LinkedIn. Well, now I'm going to repost that in my group. I'll highlight my podcast in the group. And then in the group, I'm going to ask specific questions to try to engage people. Because if there's no value or there's no discussion, they're just a name on a list in a group. So be thinking about, how do you want to leverage the group to create engagement, to give yourself an opportunity to kind of raise your brand a little bit.
So Chris, I'm not familiar with the group. I know we are encouraged to often start a real estate investment group in our hometown. What do you mean by a group in LinkedIn? I've never seen that before.
Same as a Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
Private group. Yeah.
Okay. So do you create a business page outside of your personal, or and then invite people to your group?
Yeah, no, this is just for example, this group was a group, I just called it High Tech Freedom.
Okay.
It's not tied to the business specifically. It's just a group, and you call the group, maybe you wanted to focus on something specific in real estate. You could call it the underwriters mastermind of the planet, or whatever you want. Something that can bring together people that think a certain way or want to learn more about that topic that you're tagging to the group.
Hey, Jennifer, can you do me a favor? Since I'm recording, I can't go to another place on my computer. Could you put the link of the Dropbox for the mashup group in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to put a link in the chat there. It has some resources in there. It also has a folder to all the recordings. We only record when we have a presentation such as tonight. And as soon as it gets recorded and, whatever it does, formatted, I'll stick it in there so you can find it.
Yep, I'm posting now.
And there's also a lot of resources that Chris had here tonight that will be in there as well.
Yeah, so there were some requests for a copy of your newsletter, Chris. So maybe
it's in the folder.
Oh, okay. And then if you don't mind posting your slide presentation, and I think you have that out there too.
In there. Yeah, it's in there as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was great. Anything else that I may have missed?
Yeah, well.
Oh, I thought of something. Would you like me to ask the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so, oftentimes we're looking for people that can raise more than $1 million.
Oh, you just took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, okay. Well, go for it.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, we have an investor form that we can send you. And Zach, it looks like you just came off of an $8 million raise. And I think somebody else did too. So if you're somebody that is looking to raise, or you feel like you can raise over $1 million, we'd like to get to know you. And obviously, if you're learning how to raise and you think that's an area that you really want to specialize in, put your information in here too, and we'll make sure we get you a form and we'll follow back up with you. Okay, so Rick is asking if they need to be added to the Dropbox folder for access. He's not able to access the location.
Did you put the link in there?
I did.
Let me see if I could do it. I don't know if I can. No, I can minimize my screen.
We'll make sure we get access to everybody. Right now, it's saying that
No, it's just a link that I need to give. But I can't do it right now, I don't think. Let me see.
Take a look.
Oh, wait a minute. I could do it here. Hold on. I could do it. I think I could do it. No, I can't. Yeah, maybe I can. Hold on. Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Ed, I was just going to do a bit of cross-marketing to one of our other colleagues here, because I came across a couple of podcasts with Esther. Esther's been on the multifamily mentors shows fairly recently. So yeah, it's definitely on a related topic.
Okay, and oh yeah, I see her. Well, welcome. Great to have you.
I'm curious, maybe to people out there that have had some successful raises. What are one or two things that you're doing that is working really well for you right now?
Joined a real estate club, Lifestyles Unlimited or Sumrock or one of those other ones. I've gained 2,200 contacts through Lifestyles, so I've been able to raise a ridiculous, well, that $7 million raise. So my friend do, we were able to raise it in 4 hours, kind of thing. So lots of money sloshing around out there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I put the link to the Dropbox there. Whoever it was that tried Jennifer's link, try mine.
Yours worked. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, that's
Hey, Ed,
Ed,
the link that you have added, that
Yeah.
is showing up only the capital raising piece of it. So it has a PDF, like 3 PDFs, 1 document, and an Excel file. That's all I can see in that.
That sounds about what I put in there.
But that would be
there's-
specific to that particular folder that
Now
Ed
there's-
has put it in.
all right. Listen, there's 2 folders there: resources and Zoom recordings. You don't see that?
No, no.
Well, that's what I get when I click on it.
That's probably because you are looking at from your login.
Well, you know what? Really? So you click on it, and what do you see?
All I see is it takes me to the capital raising folder. And within that, I see 3 PDFs, 1 questionnaire document, and an XLS.
that's correct. Yeah, that's all that's there. You're
Yeah,
right.
but no, that's not what I was sending, but I was sending to the whole mashup folder.
Mhm.
Ed, I opened up the folder. It's got what you mentioned, the resources.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm going to also put it on Facebook too. I'll put the same link on Facebook. Maybe once I get off of here, I'll put it on Facebook. And if anybody wants to go on the Facebook.
Oh, I'm sorry. The second link that you put in does have the resources and Zoom recordings.
Okay.
Sorry.
I thought I only put one.
Oh, sorry, Chris
That
had
was
put
me.
in one request. Sorry, it's my bad. Chris had put in a link, and that was.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Well, you got to pick the right one, you know? You want Jennifer's link that takes you nowhere? You want Chris's link that only gives you a portion of it? Or you want my link that gives you everything? Anyways, if you want to also go on the Facebook group, just look for multifamily mashup if you don't already know about it, and just ask to join. And if you don't look like an axe murderer or something like that, I'll probably let you in. So, which is pretty much everybody I'll let in, unless you're a prince in Nigeria and we don't have any mutual friends or anything. Well, did everybody enjoy this tonight, hopefully?
Great,
Well,
thank you.
you.
Lot of information.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It was excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again there, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
And I guess we should have had something ready for next week, but there we go, we don't. So,
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure and it was a learning experience. Thank you so much. I've
Yeah,
got a
and
lot
listen,
of nuggets.
when you guys come back next week, and hopefully you will, write down some questions, because when we say, you guys got any questions? We hear chirp, 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 you know, and it's like, I know you guys got questions out there, and I'm not saying that I'm smart enough to answer them, but we know a lot of people, so we could point you in the right direction. Now, I got to be transparent, honest and everything, and I only know multifamily. I don't know any of the other asset classes. So, but I know other people that do, and we can probably hook you up. But I thank everybody for coming on here tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.